5 kilograms of wild giant freshwater prawns that seemed endless, crabs bigger than a man's face caught in heaps, and even seafood that was many times more delicious. This was all because one man is a 5-star Michelin chef, and the other is a top hunter from New Zealand. Together, they were surviving in the wild, making the dream of an all-you-can-eat seafood feast a reality. If Gordon Ramsay saw this, he would probably cry his eyes out. On their previous trip deep into the forest, they weren't satisfied with just eating a whole roasted deer, so their goal this time was to eat their fill of seafood. They arrived at the largest mangrove forest island in Asia, the Kalimantan mangrove forest. They boarded a diesel-powered boat rented by the program team, but just as they were about to arrive, the boat's engines suddenly died. So, they had to borrow a small wooden boat from a neighboring crew. After saying goodbye to the man who gave them a ride, the two excitedly paddled deeper into the forest. Unexpectedly, just a few minutes later, the boat began to leak. The two desperately bailed out water, trying to find a suitable place to land. They found a dense area that looked like a perfect spot for camping and decided to stop there. As dusk fell, it looked like a big storm was approaching. The hunter, being very thoughtful, took responsibility for building a shelter and chose suitable materials. A particular type of leaf was the ideal material for a rainproof and sunproof roof. By simply tying them to a stick, he could create a shelter to protect them from the wind and rain. At that moment, the ground temperature was nearly 40 degrees Celsius. In such an environment, the human body needs at least 3 liters of water per day to function. But they hadn't had a single drop to drink yet. Fearing the chef would collapse from exhaustion, the hunter temporarily stopped building the shelter, took their pot to the riverbank to get water, and then looked for materials to start a fire. This place was not only hot but also extremely humid. After searching for a long time, he still couldn't start a fire, and the chef was almost completely exhausted. The hunter, unable to bear the sight, went further to search. He finally found some dry branches and, with all his strength, successfully started a fire. He placed the pot of water on the fire to boil and kill any microorganisms. As soon as it was boiled and before the water had even cooled, the chef couldn't wait any longer, and took a big gulp to rehydrate himself. The very next second, his face soured, the water was salty and undrinkable. The hunter then remembered they were in a coastal area, and seawater had likely contaminated the freshwater source. But it wasn't a major problem, they just had to wait for the tide to recede and boil it again. The chef reluctantly went back to work. To appease the chef's temper, the hunter paddled out to find food. His luck was good today. Not long after setting out, he came across a snail looking for a girlfriend. Thinking this one snail wouldn't be enough for the chef, he decided to use it as bait, setting a line fixed above the water's surface, hoping to catch a few small fish. After some time, guessing the tide had receded, the hunter went back to the river, filled the pot with water, and brought it back to boil. This time he didn't drink it hastily, but tested it with his precious finger first. After confirming it was no longer salty, the two gulped down the sweet boiled water. The clever chef found a bamboo tube, and poured the remaining water into it for storage. This way, they wouldn't have to wait for the tide to recede, to have fresh water to drink. Night fell, and it was another hungry night. Soon, it was the second day. As soon as the sun rose, the hunter eagerly took the pot and went out, wanting to get an early start to please the chef. Who would have thought that an accident would happen right after? The hunter saw that their boat was filled with seawater, so he put the pot down. He placed the pot in the boat, and then confidently flipped the boat over to empty out the seawater. He never expected the pot to slide out as well. This was the heirloom pot that the chef had carried for many years, losing it would be a big problem. Without a pot, how could they cook a royal feast? The hunter hurriedly got in the boat to chase after the pot. But the pot seemed to have a mind of its own, and vanished in the blink of an eye. This sent the hunter into a real panic. It seemed he would be scolded tonight, but that was okay for now, as the chef didn't know the bad news yet. The chef was happily gathering ingredients for their seafood feast. Before long, he found some wonderful Southeast Asian spices. It was the legendary wild galangal. This spice is very effective for removing the fishy smell in soup, and enhancing the dish's aroma. He tasted a little, and the flavor immediately won him over. He happily brought it back to camp, ready to cook a delicious fish soup for the hunter to try. Just as the hunter returned, the chef began to show off his find. At that moment, he still didn't know the serious situation, until the hunter told him the truth. The atmosphere instantly turned icy. The chef was so angry he wanted to punch the hunter. Fortunately, his partner quickly presented his catch, a medium-sized catfish, just enough for a meal. But it still wasn't enough to console the chef. Finally, using his years of outdoor experience, the hunter suggested a new dish, catfish steamed in a bamboo tube. The chef's anger temporarily subsided, and they went off together to find a long bamboo tube. The chef had no choice but to stuff the catfish inside, add some wild galangal spice, and place it on the fire to cook slowly. After just 15 minutes, the bamboo-steamed catfish was ready. The two sat down together, and ate their first real feast since the journey began. The aroma of the bamboo infused the fish meat, and the taste was truly delicious. After eating, the chef's mood improved significantly, and he started teasing the hunter. Although the bamboo-steamed catfish was delicious, it didn't provide enough protein, so the hunter had to go out hunting again. Seeing that the fish in the river were too small, he decided to switch to hunting on land. Before long, he found tracks in the wild, mud stains on the leaves were left by a wild boar. Continuing on, he saw claw marks on a tree, the legendary scratching post of the wild boar. The hunter even stood against it to try scratching himself, and it was a perfect fit, just as he thought. If they could catch a wild boar, they would have a nourishing roasted suckling pig.